Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. And I also want to give a shout out to our at-home audience on YouTube. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Happy to have you here. And also to Bavo for setting up these hybrid events. It wasn't easy. There was a lot of trial and error at home, but they seem to be running pretty smoothly now. Good job. I won't jinx it. Welcome back. I'm going to hand it over to Marjan, who's going to give us our next talk. So I'll see when you're done.
Yes, do you hear me? Yeah, loud and clear. Okay, happy to be here and happy to see you all. Today I'm going to talk about models, not fashion design models or beautiful people, but design models for product or a service design. And some of these models have played an important role in my working life, my professional life. And therefore I want to share a bit about them with you. I also hope that you know some of the models and that you can help me to fill in some blanks. So it will be interactive, so don't hesitate to raise your hand if you know the answer to my question. Yes, so I brought three models with me, a design thinking model, a core content model, and a cash flow model. So I want to talk a bit about that, and I also will link very shortly some cases to each model. And then I will talk about how to learn more, but that's for later. Yeah, my name is Marjan. To introduce myself a bit, I live in Antwerp, in Wilrijk. I have a business called UX Coach, and I come from the Netherlands. Maybe you hear it on my accent. I've been studying in Delft, Design for Interaction, which is all about people and interactions with products, tangible products, digital products. And I would like to stay in touch, so if you want to contact me, feel free to send me an email or go to my website or go to LinkedIn. Yes. Also a bit about what I do in daily life. I've been working for several clients in the past years. I'm an independent designer, so I have my own company. I worked for several organizations, but I'm not always working as a designer. Sometimes I'm working as a teacher. I give courses, or sometimes I work as a coach. So I talk to young designers, novice designers who are on their own and who need a sparring partner. So I have several conversations about what they do, and I try to support them to understand what's the situation they are in or the project that they're working on. I try to talk about that. Often that's not about hard skills, it's also often about soft skills, how to deal with your manager, or how to understand what other people are telling you. So that's what I do in daily life. And now I want to switch to the first model. It's inspired by a model of IDEO, a design thinking model. It's quite abstract, but maybe some of you know it. What can we fill in on the blanks? Anyone?
Tech uses business.
Sorry?
Tech, IT, users and business.
IT, users and business. Yeah. It's almost there, and I think Annie was referring to the same thing. Desirability, viability, and feasibility. Exactly, yes. Great. This model, if you start Googling, you find it back in many forms, often as a Venn diagram, but also in other shapes. So I think it's very well known, but maybe not so much among you. So I think it's good to talk a bit about it. So as was already said, it's about design, business, and technology. Every product or service design solution or project plays with these three sides. And there's also an order for us. As UX designers, we have a primary responsibility for the design side, of course. It's very normal, it's logic. but to understand what design we can offer or what design is the best solution, we have to talk to users to understand what they desire, what is the best solution for their normal life, for their needs. The second side is the business side. In most projects, we have to talk to stakeholders, to people who know what their organization wants and what they need. And there we talk about what is viable, which solution is supporting the goals of the organization. And then the third side, of course, is development. If we want to know if the solution that we have designed is something that you can realize, that's something you can build, then you have to talk to development to see if it's feasible. And this really helps me, this model, because through this model I understand better what my responsibility is as a UX designer. I'm responsible for the design side. I'm responsible to represent the users when we are creating a design. It also helps me when I'm working with other people in a team or with a client, because I understand from which perspective they are talking. Sometimes they talk from a technology side or from a business side, and it's easier to discuss when you know on which side someone is standing. And it also helps me to prepare training materials for courses, because often you look to a design from different angles. And I think the people who followed my courses know this model, that this comes back every now and then in my lessons. I linked a case to it. It's a case of UX Pro. I think Lucas is representing UX Pro tonight. Thank you, Lucas. In this case, my role was UX researcher, so I was studying the behavior of people. And we did a project for ICUs, intensive care units, with a device, a medical control unit. And we went to the ICU with a prototype, so a tangible prototype. It was a cardboard box in this case, with some tubes attached to it. And that really helped us to talk to the users about their context, and also to place the product in the context, to talk about where they would hang it, in which position, how high or how low, and also what the size of the tube should be, or the size of the power cable. And in this case, it was really important for us that we really defended the user perspective, because there were many people from the medical side, from the technical side, also from the business side. It was for a startup. So it was really our responsibility to defend that user perspective. Yeah, the second one is the core content model. And maybe some of you know this model. What do you think we should add in the blanks, in the question marks? Anyone? It stays very silent. Sorry?
User needs.
User needs and
Business needs.
And business needs. Yes, very good. Yeah. This you don't find it back if you start Googling. You don't find it back very often, so it's not so well known. But indeed, it's about business goals or business needs and user tasks or user needs. These two are the left and the right of the core pages, of the core content of your concept, of your design. The core pages are the pages where the business or the organization is reaching its goal, and where the users are happy because they find an answer to their question, or they can do an action that they want to do there. And this is also where you start designing, or it's important to think about these pages, this content, because that's where it happens, where people are happy. And maybe you know this template. I think this template belongs with the other model. And it's really helpful because if you start designing a page, you first have to think about what are the business goals, what is it that the organization wants to achieve, and what are the user tasks that we are going to link to those business goals. And if you define that, you can start to think, how will people end up on this page, the inward paths. So how do they get here? Do they get here through a Google search, or do they come from another page in the same website or the same app? Or maybe they clicked on a link in an email. And on the other side, we see the outward paths. That's about how people leave the page. Do they just exit, click the browser tab away, or do they go to another website, or do they go to an app? Or it can be any path. And if you have defined these boxes, then you can start defining the core content. What are the elements that you really need to address all of these things, the goals and the tasks and the paths. It can be text, or it can be images, videos, buttons, links, maps, everything you can think of. But it should be relevant in some way. There should be a reason to add it based on all the other boxes. Yes, and this model really helped me to understand how users reach their goal. Sometimes it's on that page, but sometimes it can also be on the next page, or it can be in Google, or it's not always even in the page that you design, but it's really helpful to work on the place where people reach their goals. And today, if I design, if it's just one page, or if it's a full website, I always think about this template. I try to walk through all the boxes and to really think about what was the business goal, what was the user task, and how do people get in and how do they get out, so that it doesn't become a dead end. And finally, it also helps me to design bottom up, because the pages where we achieve the goals and the tasks, those are often the pages that are at the deeper in the structure. It's often not the home page where you achieve the goal. It's often deeper in the navigation. So you don't start to design at the top of the structure. You start often to design at the bottom of the concept. Yeah, and a case that I linked to it is a case from, I think, 1.5 years ago, where we looked at Hotjar recordings and heat maps for an e-commerce website, a Belgian web shop. And looking at the recordings of how people use the website, we found out that there are many pain points in the pages that are a bit deeper. For instance, the page where they end up when there's no search result. They try to search and they go to search result, but there's no result. And this is a dead end. There's no outward path foreseen. So here we should add relevant, meaningful outward paths to make sure that people can navigate further and that they will reach their goal, that they will find the product they are looking for, and that also the organization reaches its goal because it sells more products from brands that are important to them, or categories that are important to them. And then the third model, it's the cash flow model. I called it the cash flow model. It's quite a complex one. On the vertical axis, you see the cash flow. So the cash flow is positive when there is money coming in the organization. It's called investments when money is going out. And the horizontal axis is the time. And what do you think we can add to the question mark? Design, yeah. Who was saying design? Design, yes. Yeah, very good. Design, or maybe analysis or research, but very good. Design. And yes, very good. And why do you think this diagram had an impact on me as a designer? What did I learn from this diagram? Maybe it's not really a model, but more like it. It costs money, yes. Yeah, yeah. It's not for free. Yeah, that's a good one.
That it takes some time to see return.
Yes, exactly. It takes some time to see a return on investment. Yeah.
Design is cheaper than implementation.
Design is cheaper than implementation. Exactly. Yeah, we're getting there. We are getting there. Thank you.
Maybe
Yes?
the less time you use, the more money it makes for the investment.
The less time you use,
Yeah.
the more money it makes for
Yeah,
investment.
the faster you makes the
Yeah. If you can design and implement really fast,
Yeah.
then you have an income faster. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Yes?
Validate more quickly.
Validate more quickly. Yeah. And where do you validate?
In design phase already.
In the design phase already. Yes.
On the
Yeah.
zero line, you start validating.
Yeah. On the zero line. Yeah. You start validating. Yeah. The at time is 0. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I think the design phase here is very important for any development project. If it's about infrastructure or about software or about websites or any product, the design phase it doesn't cost a lot of money and it doesn't cost a lot of time and maybe not so many people. Maybe you have a team of 2 or 3. But when you start implementing, you need a bigger team and you need more time because development's often slower and it's not easy to solve problems in implementation in development. And you need design to make sure that you don't run the risk of failure at the end of implementation. Because if you implemented everything and then you find out that what you created is not useful for the target group or it's not working as they expected, then you have a big problem because you invested a lot of money for something that's not valuable to your market. So it's important to have the design phase up front and validate quickly. The word validation was very important with a little investments to be sure that after implementation you will be successful. And I think this is important to know as a designer because it helps you to defend design, to tell to clients, to other people who see design as a beautiful or aesthetic layer, to defend design, that it's important to do it to validate your ideas up front before you start developing it. And it also helps me to understand that the design phase is not there because we like to design. It's there to support implementation. So the faster you learn during the design phase, the better you understand what the user needs, the better you support implementation. So as a designer, you shouldn't stay at your desk. You shouldn't just draw everything beautifully, but try to validate it with users so that you don't run the risk of failure after implementation. And yeah, I also understand the speed or the lack of speed of development better. There's more people involved, there's more time needed to implement everything. And a case I linked to it is designed for a document management web application that I did at the end of last year. And in this case, I had to really explain to the clients that it's important to validate your ideas. So we did several rounds of usability testing to show that important tasks can be done faster or more easily by users when we redesigned their web app several times. So we did multiple iterations, and I could show them also based on the usability testing that it was improving. Yes, okay. These were the 3 models, but I already mentioned UX Pro, and I work a lot with, or I used to work a lot with Jan Moons and maybe some of you know him. He is, like me, he likes to teach people about UX and about user research, about usability testing. And that's why we also started a program with different courses about UX design. And I always think, well, I learned this last year. If you want to teach people and if you want to coach people to grow, then you have to have conversations about where they want to end up. So this model is about growing. It says grow, but it's about what is your goal as a professional or as a person? Where do I want to go to? What is the reality? Where am I at this moment? Did I already reach my goals? What are the options to grow? Maybe I can follow a course, maybe I can look at examples, maybe I can do it hands-on and just teach myself. What are the options to grow? And the last is, of course, will. Do I have the will to start it up, to take the first step? This is about discipline. This is about, focus on the goal. And I think this is a good way to talk about growth of people, of professionals. So this is a model that I also use when I coach people or when I train people. And together with Jan, we organized hands-on trainings to specialize in UX design. And we organized them in Antwerp, close to the Operaplein. It's not so far from here. And you can find all the details on uxtalent.be. And these are a couple of courses that we provide with the dates. It's all in Dutch, so for the non-Dutch speaking people, I'm sorry about that, but it's in Dutch. Every training takes a day, and lunch and drinks are included. And this summer we also will provide a summer school of 3 days with 3 different courses in one package. So if you are interested, please visit the website, go to uxtalent.be/summer school and mention Meetup Antwerp to get a nice discount. It would be really cool to have the summer school with all of you. Okay, now it's time for the exam. So I created a little survey. And if you scan the QR code, you go to a maze survey. And let's see if you listened well. Yes. Is it working? Yeah? Okay, cool. It's just a few short questions. Some questions about the models that we talked about earlier, and some questions about trainings and your preferences. So it's really cool if you can just answer these very quickly. And I don't think can I show the results? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, I think most people are ready. Wait, I'm losing it. No. Okay, I think it's not working. I'm not connected. I'm trying to connect to my iPhone
Oh, weird.
to see the results, but well, I can send them later on. It's not connecting. Yeah. No. Okay.
Oh, so it's
Yeah. I also had trouble to get on the Wi-Fi here, so, but I will send the results later on. That's yes.
We'll send them on Slack.
Yes? Nee, ik dacht ik ga op mijn telefoon om nog de resultaten te bekijken van die test, maar lukt nu niet meer. Anders stuur ik ze later nog eens. Maar ja,
Okay.
ja.
We're having some Wi-Fi problems. We'll see if it corrects itself before the ends, but
Yes, I think everybody filled
I
it
think
in.
everybody filled it in. So if the Wi-Fi comes back, then we'll show the results. Otherwise, we'll post them on our Slack so you can see if you got the answers right.
Yes.
We'll go ahead and kick off Q&A, but thank you so much for your talk. Those were very tried and true models indeed, ones that I've used a lot in my career as well. And one that I've always found, in addition to all the benefits that you have said, also help kind of control the client as well, is what I found. It's a really good change management tool. And I know that that's a major pain point when dealing with clients. If you can at least show them like, hey, you need to have some overlap with your users, everybody kind of understands fairness, I think, and so there's not a lot that they can say back. So if you ever have problems, getting your clients to understand that they need to also consider user goals as well, these models help really well. They're simple and really effective. So thank you for bringing that. Are there any questions from the audience?
Maybe about your courses.
Okay.
Do you also have more advanced UX courses?
I think the courses here are really following the process and also to learn about the process. So most of them are basic. I think most of them are quite basic. Yeah. But
okay.
I will look into it.
Thanks.
Maybe, maybe the lean UX is more advanced. Yeah, and design sprints. Yeah, maybe as well. Yeah. Thank you. Good question.
Very good question. Anyone else?
Yes.
Johan, 1 sec.
So it's a question for you, but also maybe for the audience. I find that it's about the third model, about the cash flow model. So I find that time and time again, organizations will hire like one designer and 20 engineers, and then wonder why there's something wrong with the implementation. I think it's improving. The UX has been growing, and like more people realize, like maybe we want 2 designers or 3 maybe. There's some banks that are like, let's hire 30 designers. So that's also interesting. But I'm just wondering for the audience, like, what's your perspective on the evolution? So the percentage of UX designers in the company or designers in general, and maybe your thoughts. You see a lot of clients and you see the UX world. What's your perspective on it?
Yeah, I also see that there are many designers working on their own and are fighting really for UX to give it space, and also fighting to get more colleagues. And it's not easy. They are really on their own often. And it's good to have an agency that provides more design hours and man hours. Yeah, men or women, of course. But it's I think it's slowly growing. It's slowly improving in Belgium. Is that an answer to your question? Or?
Yeah, a little bit, but I think I had a perspective from my agency, and now I'm an in-house designer, so I'm getting a new perspective. I think you're coaching junior designers a lot, so it's also a certain perspective. So maybe there's other perspectives.
But in my experience, I worked for a lot of companies already, and what I do see is there are more and more UX designers coming in the bigger companies, but they are always over-asked, even within the companies, a lot of times. So meaning that it happens a lot, in my opinion, that even the UX designers become like a team, or more and more in a bigger company. Even they get isolated from each other because they are so over-asked that it's very difficult to create actually a design team. Thinking because sometimes there are so many in-house products being built. If you work for a big company, that it's difficult to actually become a team, because everybody is continuously in some meeting, working together with business if you are in a good company, and meaning that you get again isolated. So although there are more and more UX designers coming in the bigger companies, it is still very difficult to actually be a team. That is my opinion.
Completely agree. And it's being stretched thin, I think. I've never seen an underworked UX designer or a UX designer in a company that's under demand. I find that once you add one to one team, the other teams want them, and so they have to spread out further and further, and so it's constantly a game of catch-up. Agree. I also think that there's an industry trend to it. So banking, obviously, some of the biggest UX teams in Belgium are working for banks now, but they've been investing heavily for 10 years. If you look at some of these newer industries like logistics and things like that, they're way behind, so they're still hiring the one designer for the 50 developers or whatever. But industry by industry, they're slowly catching on. That's my opinion. That's my observation. Yes, more.
Yeah, what I've seen in our company is actually also a task split between the UX designer and the product owner. We used to do UX design and being a product owner, so while the developers were developing it, so checking whether they implemented it correctly, giving advice, fine-tuning. And in our company at least, we've split it. So now it's really like purely UX, and there's a separate product owner who takes on that task. And those are often people also with a UX background or with an interest in UX who maybe are not the best designers, but who also have a feel for UX, and that's really useful. So you can really focus as a UX designer more on your core design skills, and then to use the product owner as your extension, and also as the user advocate in a team. So I see that in our in our team as well. Yeah.
Is there one? Yes.
Thank you. I want to add two things to that. I think that indeed there is more and more need for UX designers, but very often a designer comes into a bigger team and there's no process or no context for these designers to work in. So they cannot dive into the design or in the task at hand, but they first need to make room for themselves and be able to do research and have a time and have a way to get feedback to that. And very often that's the first thing that we need to do in order to get qualitative design. And the second thing is that because the demand is so high, is that it's really hard, and most good people working with banks then, it's really hard to find experienced people. So I think sharing knowledge like this and having this kind of coaching things is really important to step up the quality of all the UX designers.
Is there one more question? Otherwise, we'll wrap up. It was a very good question to ask. We just realized, Marjan, you've been a member of UX Antwerp since 2013, which I think makes you OG, part of the senior citizen staff of UX Antwerp. Okay. So you may remember we're trying to resurrect the habits or the tradition of handing out a patch. The founding organizers were, also kind of old school. They had, like the flaming lips on their patch on their jean jacket from the 80s or 90s. And so they made these patches, and so we thought they were pretty awesome. Okay. So every speaker gets one. Wow. Here you go. Thank you very much. Well, Steven, I have one for you too. Put it on your jean jacket. Yeah, see, you're already sporting one. Cool. There you go. Yes. Thanks to both of our speakers, and thanks again to ICAPS. Our next event is next month. which is May 31st, and we'll be at Belfius, actually, a bank with one of the biggest UX teams in Brussels. So hopefully you can join us there. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you.